Hello, ma'am. Welcome to the session for World Architecture Day, where me, Maathangi Venkatraman, and Nimit Bhansali will be having a conversation with you as part of the World Architecture Day campaign. So, ma'am, you've been with Edifice for an astounding 20 years, and you've worked on some key projects like the corporate headquarters for Mentor Graphics, HCL Consultancies, Tata Consultancy Services, and most recently the Atal Akshay Urja Bhavan for MNRE.
That's
So, ma'am, your forte has been integrating technology with architecture for achieving sustainability and energy efficient buildings. So, after looking into the projects that you've done and the kind of experience you hold, you are very inspired and excited to know more about it. So, can you tell us more about your journey as an architect from a fresh graduate right out of college to being a director and a lead architect in Edifice?
it's been many years now, like you mentioned, it's around 22 years, and I really will have to stretch my memory to tell you everything. It was 22 years, but whatever it's been an enjoyable journey, especially um, the part where I've been working with Edifice because though it is in one firm for so many years. However, I have worked in Edifice for all offices of Edifice, you may say. So I worked in Mumbai, worked in Chennai, worked in Calcutta, and now working in Delhi. So even though it has been one single firm, Edifice being a multi-vocational organization, it has helped me in moving across the country and doing various types of projects in various locations with various clients. So it has been a very, very interesting and enriching journey within Edifice. I did join a couple of firms before Edifice when I started off. And the interesting thing is that I left my first organization within 1 week, and the second one within a year. And then it was Edifice and its history. So, having said that, is that it's been very, very satiating, and very empowering. The good thing about Edifice is that you're not working for an organization, it's like working for yourself. And which is why the attrition rate at Edifice is very, very low. It's not only me who has worked for 2 decades, there are multiple people who have been working with Edifice for more than 2 decades.
Ma'am, like as you said that when you were talking about your journey, you told about it's a huge firm. We all know that it's more than 200 people big. And then, like, I'm very curious that when you are talking about your work and your journey of 20 years, how have you managed to show your individual character into it, being a part of a larger team? Because every one of us hold as an architect our individual, beliefs, goods, bads, things like that. So how have you hold that?
So, that's the difference between academics and working in the profession. Because in academics, you are given an assignment, and while you do group activities, most often than not, it is an individual, assignment that you are working on. So, it is your own design thinking, design process, etc. In profession, typically, it is always a group activity, and it's not only about architecture. There are a lot of other vocations and fields of work where you have to work as a team. So that is something that you learn when you go into the profession, and the better a team player you are, the better it is for you, because it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and you have to do your part of the puzzle as well as you can, and each of the individuals within the group have to do their part of the jigsaw puzzle as best as they can. And when you all put it together, it's a great product.
Interesting. So, ma'am, we got to know that Edifice started as an interior firm and now it's a multidisciplinary organization. So, how did the firm grow and evolve? I'm sure you must have been part of that growth.
Can you repeat that question once again?
Yeah, so we got to know that Edifice started out as an interior design firm and now it's a multidisciplinary organization. So, how did the firm grow and evolve?
Yes, Edifice started off around 35 years ago from a small garage. And it was started by Ravi Sarangan and Srinivas. And over the multiple years, it's moved ahead with leaps and bounds. And we, of course, started off with an interior as an interior design firm. And Edifice actually grew with the the software boom in the country. When India's economy was doing well, and a lot of software companies started expanding by leaps and bounds, um, and software being an industry which needs more number of people. There was a lot of real estate that got created with software, banking. So these are all sectors where a whole lot of real estate needed to be put together. And the Indian economy also moved ahead. It surged ahead. And in those years, Edifice also surged ahead. So few of our clients have been clients like Infosys, Wipro, TCS. And when all of these companies surged ahead, Edifice also surged ahead. So, in fact, one of our first clients was Infosys. And while I haven't personally worked with Mr. Narayan lately, Sanjay Srinivasan always tells us, that we worked with Infosys when it was starting, and Mr. Narayan Murthy was actually setting up Infosys. And a lot of the ethos, the thought process of wealth share, empowerment, etc., that Mr. Narayan Murthy brought together and put together the brand of Infosys. Edifice also, moved ahead on those ideologies, those paths where each of us are empowered. The concept of wealth sharing, like Infosys, was brought into Edifice. So yes, we did move ahead a lot, and we grew a lot during those software days. And that's when we started, doing large IT campuses, large IT SEZs, and you will see our profile that we have done millions of square feet of these large IT SEZ setups. We are currently doing a lot of mixed use and commercial and all of that as well. We have moved now into large educational institutes, large healthcare campuses. But your question was about when and how did Edifice grow. The IT boom of the software boom of India did help. We rode on the wave of the
The
digital
IT.
in India.
Ma'am, so did that lead to the current thought process of Edifice in which you uh, give a significance to sustainability, and how you use technology to bring about the sustainability? So, was there any interconnection between them?
Actually, sustainability came very naturally to us because we realized that it is our duty to, as architects, because the footprint that we can, affect, and what we can do. The We are empowered as architects to bring the change. And it actually came as a discussion, as a thought process, as an ideology, that we thought it is our primary duty to do sustainable projects. And we did it long before, and today, of course, there are these lead ratings and GRIA ratings, etc., and so forth. Many decades ago, we started bringing in sustainability and at that time, actually, the so-called rating system was also not existent. We One of our very first campuses was TCS Hyderabad. And there, actually, when we were doing the land study, the soil study, we saw that there was this location in the site where, when soil dries up in a paddy field or something, you'll see that parched land, that broken soil that comes. So we saw that, and we realized that somehow naturally soil, this water was getting accumulated, naturally was getting held up over there. And that area has a rocky strata. And when we did the actual analysis of that site, we realized that water was getting naturally held up in that area. And when we did the entire master planning of that campus, we created a naturally, water holding water body. And we did not create any concrete walls or anything. We used the rocky strata, the rocks that we got while excavating, and we just, did a containment with those rocks and boulders, and we, held up water over there. So, and in a dry climate like Hyderabad, to have that kind of a large water body in the middle of a large campus, and IT campuses are energy guzzlers, and you need a lot of energy. So, by virtue of being able to create that kind of natural water body, we were able to take um uh, energy efficient things like water cool chillers, etc. And you should now see that area. Birds come sit in that water body, and there's a lot of vegetation around, and it's just beautiful. So that is sustainability. You may not have a rating system there, and in that particular facility, we did a lot of other things. We did a vaulted structure where we had glazing in the north, and we got in north light. And if you see that facility, and it's a decades old facility now, uh, you'll see that there is so much natural light coming into the buildings via these vaulted structures and glazing on the north. You actually do not have to switch on lights during the day at all in a lot of the common areas. So while it's not a lead rated facility, maybe, or not the highest lead rated facility, so many decades ago we could bring in the thought process of sustainability. So it's not about, in our projects, sustainability is at the core of design. And we are not kind of matching the Excel sheet of the various ratings that if I do this, I get this many points. If I do this, I get that many points. We start from day one. We think sustainability. It's within the entire, the ethos or the concept of development. And it's not whether the client wants it or not. Like I said, it's within us. It's within our system. It's within the process of design. So it's not something that is superficial. It's not something which is lipstick. It's not something that is done as an afterthought. So, and that's why we can do it. It comes naturally to us. We don't need to do anything extra or go out of our way to kind of make our products green and sustainable.
Like as Matangi mentioned about that project, Atal Akshay Urja Bhavan, which you recently did for Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So the way you talked about sustainability, we were already curious about it, that how this thing entirely happens, because sustainability, then green architecture, then there are passive techniques, so many words coming in, and then we get usually confused that what are these ratings, how are these given. So I don't know, I'm just asking that, is it a very costly thing, or like the way how you did at Aksha Urja Bhavan? I learned about that project. I went into the floor plans and all those things. I really like the way how you cantilevered the roof and put solar panels on top. So is it very costly in terms of doing it? Can we do it for the way we are building for housing and things like that, or is it very exclusive?
So, like I was saying, that if you start from the concept, and if sustainability and green, architecture is done at the concept level from the very beginning, then it is not expensive. It is actually part of the process. So, if you are not thinking from day one, uh, uh, in those lines, then later on you bring in very active methodologies of very expensive glass, dedues, and you bring in a lot of these insulation materials. You try to bring in active measures like bringing in very high efficiency chillers, or very expensive methodologies of trying to achieve those so-called rating points.
Yes.
So at Atal Akshaya Urja Bhavan, similar to the earlier project for TCS Hyderabad that I had mentioned, we started from day one. Okay, so we designed the building with a lot of passive methodologies, which is inexpensive or at zero additional cost to the project. So there were things like we took all the, I mean, simple things like when we were planning the whole thing out, we uh, put all the services, the staircases, the HUs, the washrooms, everything on the west wall. These were all areas which did not require sunlight to come in. By putting all of these service areas and areas which do not uh, get occupied by human beings through the day, we were able to block off the west wall of the building completely. And of course we went ahead to take double wall. So we had taken a 2 feet thick, a 600 wall, a double wall with a cavity insulation within. But we were able to avoid glazing completely on the western wall. And you can see the photographs that are there, published online, or even the building is standing there. We were able to achieve a very low amount of glazing requirement on the western wall by planning the layout in that manner. And we took all the areas that were habitable on the eastern side. So if you see the eastern facade of the building, it's completely glazed. So we were able to bring in the eastern light into the building, and that is when most of your working hours are, and this is the non-harsh sunlight. So by virtue of bringing in the good sunlight, we were able to bring down the lighting load, and by breaking off the bad sunlight of the west and the south, we were able to avoid the heat load. So by means of that, we were able to bring in a lot of efficiency in terms of the energy loads. We were able to bring down the lighting requirement, and we were able to bring down the air conditioning requirement as well. The other thing which we did was we did a lot of radiant cooling. So we have taken these radiant panels and radiant baffles across the project, and by doing a mixed mode kind of ventilation and cooling, and a mixed kind of a methodology of air conditioning, we were able to bring down the air conditioning load significantly. Because in all these office buildings, no, the air conditioning load is the maximum load. So if you are able to deal with the air conditioning load, like uh, 70-80% you've solved the math.
Right.
Okay, and then what we did was that, so Atal Akshaya Urja Bhavan is the first net positive energy building in the country. And especially it is important because when you are doing net positive and you have large swaths of land, a lot of these educational institutes are now aiming for net positive or net zero. It is easy for them because you are not using the entire footprint of the land. You are making buildings which are a combination of academic and residential, which are not energy guzzlers. These are not commercial buildings, and you have lot of land area to compensate for that energy consumption by doing solar farms. So you have a lot of area where you can put solar panels. In our case, in Atal Akshaya Urja Bhavan, we had only 2.76 acres of land, in which, after leaving the setbacks, the building by the building rules and the fire tender around, the rest of the footprint was the building footprint. So there was nothing else left.
Right.
Oh, and what we had to do is we had to back calculate. So what we essentially did is that we cantilevered the roof top a little bit. We raised the solar panel. So typically what happens in most projects, you use the terrace to install the solar panels. We lifted the solar panel like a tray, and then we could cantilever it out of the building. By means of that, we could increase the footprint of the solar to that extent. Of course, it was not as much as, if we had 2 more acres of land and, we put solar panels over there and then achieved net positive. But at
Definitely.
least we could maximize the solar footprint. What we also did, what was advantages for us, was we took the southern wall, we took solar panels on the southern wall as well. It's not as efficient as having it on the roof, but at least we could add up those numbers by virtue of the uh, electricity that we were generating from the south wall. What also happened is that entire southern wall was of solar panels also buffered the southern wall of the building.
Hmm.
It was helping us not to the heat was not hitting the solar wall, so it was insulating the southern wall as well. So that way we insulated the southern wall, and we also used the southern facade to enhance the energy generation. So those were some of the methodologies, and as you can see, none of this are very expensive methodologies.
Right.
And of course, we did take a very energy efficient glass on the eastern facade, but the wall window ratio is to the tune of 27%. So the requirement of the glazing we reduced so much by virtue of efficient layout planning, that even if we took a high efficiency glass, even if we took a DGU, the total cost of glazing was reduced because the total requirement of glazing was low. So by virtue of having done all of these methodologies, the building cost is very much like any other commercial building. So if you take a modern top of the line commercial building that is being built today, the costs are very comparable. We didn't have to spend much more, and in a government project, the so-called budgeting requirements are also so much. Even before we back the project, the budgets for the project were already fixed. So
Right.
it's not like that we could spend a lot, because it's finally not a private project, and it's a government project. It's not a large conglomerate's commercial headquarters or something like that. So we did have budget constraints, and we were able to achieve net positive within the budgets that we have.
Ma'am, like I really like the way you explained. It was more like a sustainable architecture class, and the what I learned out of it was, like the way you explained. You started from the right from the design process. It's massing void and then arranging the area program, and then you said that we calculated it backwards to make it net positive. What all things we can do? So that way, passive ways came in, like cantilevering the roof and all that. I really liked it. So, ma'am, one more thing. We as a generation, like we are about to graduate. What do you think are those things which I totally agree that it totally comes from experience, and the more you look at things and the more you experience on field. But then right now, if I ask from for myself, what are those things that we can do to make sure that we also can be working in the field of sustainability
What
and
sort of
things like
skill
that?
sets do
Yeah.
a fresh graduate would require,
Hmm.
or what sort of soft skills that we should be developing on to look at a career in sustainability once we get into the field?
So first and foremost is to understand where you are, to understand the local requirements. That is most important. We typically, in all our methodologies, try to aid the West. So first of all, you need to uh, understand your roots, understand where India is, what are our climatological aspects, what is our land profile, how is our culture, how do we work, right? So India is blessed with the kind of temperatures that we have. We are neither too hot, we are neither too cold, we are not sitting in Siberia, nor are we in the middle of the desert. So we are blessed with great climate. So you have to understand that. So in the West, the temperatures are very different. They are inward looking. They are, and their spaces require themselves to envelope themselves, insulate themselves from all sides, right? So, unfortunately, in most of our buildings, we are trying to close at the other day. So in Atalakshmi Urja Bhavan itself, we have a lot of areas which are naturally ventilated. So somebody, when I was showing them around in the building, they said, "What if birds come in?" Okay, so I said, "What if birds come in? Wonderful. You're living in the middle of a sanctuary. You want
Yeah.
birds to come in, right? So
Yeah.
birds will not come in unless you have great climate within the building.
Right.
So right, so you are already green because the birds are leaving the and you are in the middle of Delhi where a lot of plants are there. So if a bird is coming in into your building, then you should be happy about it. Why do you want to insulate yourself from the birds? Please
Right.
let the birds in, right? And
Right.
I mean, if you do have to do a little bit of cleaning because of the birds are coming in, so be it.
It's fine.
Right, you are maintaining. It's a commercial building. You're doing a lot of maintenance of the building. So let's have a little bit of areas which is naturally ventilated, and we have great months where we can. And it's not only about Delhi. This particular project is in Delhi. We have better climate. You are from Bangalore, right? You just
Yeah.
mentioned. Look at
Yeah.
the advantage of the Bangalore climate. Let's all enjoy it. Why do we stay inside the glass box? So let us make buildings which appreciate the climate that is there, which we are blessed with. So most of our buildings are these days insulating us away from the surroundings. So first of all, let us appreciate our surroundings. Let us make buildings which are synonymous with the surroundings. Let us breathe naturally. Of course, there are pollution issues, there are other issues, and there are a lot of ways to deal with that. So even in Delhi, we are making a few large campuses which have a lot of naturally ventilated areas. There are questions of pollution which come to us. So there are various ways of dealing with them. There are landscape related responses to them. There are other MEP related. You can use misting, etc. A lot of ways to make the areas comfortable for yourself. So we're not saying that you do not have comfortable, living areas. You can have sustainable methods and still have comfortable areas. So even in Atal Lakshmi Urja Bhavan, because we have radiant cooling, we have set the temperatures at somewhere around 24, 25, right? We're not having 22 degrees or 21 degrees. But at 24, 25 also people are coming back and telling us that you please, you can take the temperatures up to 28 also, because 28 is a very comfortable temperature.
Yeah.
So if you have good fresh air, if you have good, ways, methodologies of air conditioning areas, even, and if you, especially in radiant cooling, what happens, there is a particular temperature, and there is a thing about feels like. So you must be, hearing that okay, Delhi has 10 degrees, but it feels like 6 degrees.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are various things about that feels
Right.
like. So even in hot temperatures, no, there is a feels like kind of a temperature. So in radiant, what happens, no, it's not about blasting yourself with a certain temperature air. It naturally cools everything around you. So in hot climates, you will see that while you have the blast of AC on you, your back on the chair is sweating.
Hmm.
Why? Because it's not radiant cooling. Your
Right.
feels like is a different temperature, and the air at which the temperature at which the air is getting thrown at you is a different temperature. Okay, so by virtue of radiant cooling, you're able to cool the wall, the floor, your other elements in the building, and by virtue of that, you are able to bring in a good feels like temperature, even by not pushing the temperature down to 22, 21.
Right.
Okay, so these are some of the things which, if you know and if you appreciate, and especially I'm telling you, and again I keep telling everybody, we are blessed to be in India, and let us appreciate what we have in our own climate, in our own surroundings, and let us not try to box us up. The minute you start trying to create an artificial environment for yourself, and box yourself up from all sides. That's where you try to become an energy guzzler, because then you're creating a microclimate, an artificial microclimate within that box. So first you box yourself up, and then you're trying to bring in good elements within that box. So the
Uh,
minute you stop boxing yourself, you've kind of achieved it.
half,
And
half.
then you study the various ways of how to make yourself comfortable by being exposed to the nature, right? And if you study, and in college, I'm sure all your professors must be telling you that study all the old buildings, the
Yeah.
old architecture that we have. We did not have DGUs then, and we did not have high efficiency glass, and we did not have maglev chillers, and we did not have VAVs and VRV systems, and all of this at that time, right? But people were comfortable; they were all living, right? And people were used to living. So how were they doing that? Of course, the climate has changed. There is an aspect of global warming that has come. So it's not like you will be able to use everything that happened in the past, but you can use something. You can use something, you can indigenize it, modify it, and then employ in your projects. So just don't blindly copy, is my advice to all of you.
Feel the context basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, ma'am, like again, I have two questions coming in. You mentioned about climate zones, and I have heard somewhere that, yeah, Edifice as a company is based out of 5 climate zones. When I look at your offices, right? So, like, how do you guys, when you approach the projects, you being in multiple cities and in multiple project teams, how do you tackle all that? Like, what is basically the work culture that you approach to make sure that the end result is the way we see it? So yeah.
So, first of all, it's not one thing fits all, right? So,
Hmm.
you have to understand that, like you said, you have to understand the context. So, understanding it, analyzing it, tearing it apart, shredding it, that is most important, right? So, you have to shred that problem into bits, and then only you will be able to give the correct solution. So if you think that if I have done something in Delhi, you can just take it, copy it, and employ it in Bangalore, or what you have done in Bangalore can go fit into some project we are doing in Sikkim. So we are doing work in Rishikesh, we are working in Sikkim, we are working in Kochi, we are working in Pune, we are working in Ahmedabad, we are working in Calcutta, we are in Bhubaneswar. We are all over the place. And even by saying that, okay, Hyderabad is hot dry and Delhi is also hot dry. So let's
Let's.
copy what you've done in Delhi and Hyderabad. Even that doesn't work. So you have to do wind analysis, you have to do climatological analysis. And the good thing about your generation is that you have softwares with you. You can do a lot with softwares. You have technology by your side. So in your earlier question, you asked me that what is it that you should know. You should have a great hold on technology. You should use all of these softwares that you have at your disposal, which we did not have 15 years, 20 years ago. Maybe it was probably there, but it was not so easily available, so
Accessible.
cheaply available. Softwares used to cost a bomb at that time. Now it is more available to you. You can, and there are a lot of free sites also where you can probably put in the data and get inputs out of it. So use technology to your advantage, and design for the context, for the problem. One is the context, the other is the typology of the project. So what I would do for an office building, I would not do for a residential building, I would not do for an academic building, I would not do for a hospitality or a healthcare building, right? So every type of project is different, and of course understanding the project, the problem, and in the context where that problem is to be situated is important. So all of these parameters together will drive you to the solution that you provide. And if you start thinking logically, no, then it will not be difficult for you. Then the solutions will automatically start
Come to- context.
unfolding in front of you
Yeah,
by
yeah.
itself.
Yes.
Got it, ma'am.
So, ma'am, if we look at the current scenario in the world, there are three major problems which can be defined as the three C's: COVID-19, climate, and conflict. So, we as architects have expertise in a lot of avenues. So, what role do we play in tackling this? How do we approach the three issues that are currently the whole world is facing?
So you said COVID-19, climate,
With
and
climate
Climate,
and conflict,
conflict.
the
conflict.
Russia,
Oh,
Ukraine, and
sure, sure. Yes, yes. Oh, unfortunately, yes. Lot of conflict all around. So first of all, hopefully we are over the hill with COVID. But COVID has taught us a lot of things, certain things which we never thought would be possible for us to do. COVID has taught us. It's put the finger in the eye and kind of taught us
yeah,
that this is possible. So one of the things is working remotely. The other thing is, in terms of sustainability, also it has taught us many things. Certain things which we thought that without which is, simply not possible. It's unthinkable. We now think it's possible. It's possible to do stuff like that. So COVID essentially it is taught, while it has taught us many things, some of the things are applicable to architecture and design. So one of the most important things that comes to us from most of our clients is de-densification. So earlier, what used to happen is that we were pushed to, in term, due to cost or other, resource crunches, resource issues, we were asked to design things which were far more dense in terms of area, number of people per unit
area.
area. It used to be far, far more dense. So that people have understood that de-densification is important, and across projects and project typologies, that de-densification is happening because people are able to work and operate remotely. The requirement of so many number of people in a given area has reduced, because people are, functioning remotely for a lot of uh, requirements. It's not only offices, even in hospitals, that there are doctors giving consultancy remotely, right?
Right.
And there are these so many startups who are actually
Coming.
working towards that. So it's not only commercial areas, not only retail, of course. I mean, huge amount of de-densification has happened. A lot of people, utility stuff, or not, even non-utility stuff, people are buying online. So healthcare has de-densified, retail has de-densified, offices have de-densified. So having done that, people within that same footprint, we are able to cater to and provide for lesser number of people in a much better way. So that has given us designers a lot of elbow room. We are able to, we are able to bring in great experiences to people. So we are able to do better experiential designing within the given spaces, which probably we were not able to do. The second thing that has happened is people are splitting up things. So earlier, probably everybody was expected to come and, we used to create these mountain, monstrous kind of buildings, and everybody was expected to, gather, conglomerate in that one space. Most clients have now realized that they can spread it out in smaller footprints across areas. So that is the other thing that has happened. So you are spreading out real estate instead of trying to bring in everybody and create these huge monstrous spaces. So these are two great things that have happened to design and architecture thanks to COVID. Your next was climate, right? So climate, I think we've spoken a lot, right?
Lot.
In your earlier questions were all leading to climate. And the one thing that we have not covered in your earlier questions, of course, sustainability is a large part of climate response. The second thing is that we, as architects, need to have buildings which are resilient. because more and more we are these freak weather conditions, you having more rain, more storm, more cold, more hot kind of a situation. So our buildings need to be able to respond and be resilient to all of these freak weather conditions because of global warming. So it is important for us to specify, spec our projects, design in such a manner that we are able to take care of all of these requirements while we are designing our buildings. So earlier, if we were able to design, say, a facade for a certain wind speed, or if we were able to build a building for a certain water level or a certain waterlogging capacity, we are having to consider much worse conditions while designing and prepping up our buildings. So those are the things that we are now having to think because of this climate change aspect. The third thing that you have said is the conflict. So one of the major things that have happened in climate in conflict situation is um, getting material from all over the country.
Hmm.
So we are more and more the clients are coming back and telling us that we don't know what the situation is. We have certain timelines. We may not be able to get a certain product from China, from Germany, from this, there, etc. So and which is a nice thing in certain aspects, because then we are able to use a lot of things which are indigenously produced, indigenously developed. And earlier, maybe we could just put our finger on on something and import it from somewhere. The circumstances are pushing us to think what are the local alternatives to that, and to design around that. So yes, conflict has kind of narrowed down our optionalities in terms of materials and resources, and we are having to respond to that and figure out how we can do best with what we have. The government has, brought in this major Make in India push, but having said that, it has very recently started, right? So not everything is still available in India. So we are having to plan for and pre-order things which are still not yet being produced and built in India, and we are having to plan for it. So that is more a project management thing than a design thing, but designers are expected to tell the project managers and the client that, listen, I have put in this xyz elements into the project, or I have had to put it in because of the requirements of the project. However, this has a lead time, and this may or may not be able to come in the given amount of time. So please pre-order, please make sure that you have all of this in time, and all of those aspects. So the conflict has um, uh, forced us to do a rain check and do an advance uh,
Preparation.
planning for all our projects.
Hmm. Right. So, ma'am, again, like when I really like the way you talked about COVID-19, because you mentioned one thing which I got it is now people and the governments are more driven to quality rather than quantity that you were mentioning basically, and it's a good thing. How do you think that you have worked across government projects many? What are we aiming for? How India as a country is looking forward to fields which are related to architecture, design, as well as development. Like, what is the being in that realm? What do you think?
So there are many things that the government is bringing. So what the government can essentially do is, apart from government projects where they are building their own buildings, they have a better control of it. But what they can drive for the entire country is through policies. So they can bring this major push through policy driven pushes. So one of the major things that they have done is that they have said that, and as an incentive, most of the policies have to be incentive driven. So only if you bring in great incentives, that is where people are then motivated to then go out of their shell and do all of these things. So one of the things that they have said is that if you are lead rated, if you are Griha rated, if you are sustainability rated, they will let you build more. So you get this additional extra FSI if your building is green. So that is one of the policies that they have brought in. They have also brought in a lot of these, um, uh, you know, guidelines. So one of them is the guideline related to differently abled people. There is this whole accessibility guideline that the government has brought in, and they are implementing it across. They are even retrofitting it in their old government buildings also. They are making sure that all their buildings are accessible for all the differently abled people. So they have brought in these policies, they have brought in these. So what happens is that when all government projects are able to do it, it's slowly and steadily becomes a norm.
No.
So earlier, most projects didn't even have basic things like an entry ramp.
Right.
They didn't have lifts that were going to all areas. They didn't have tactile tiles. They didn't have lift buttons which had the braille methodology, and these are not very expensive things. So they didn't have guardrails, etc. They were not friendly to people, for people who were not able to see everything, who they would not be able to maneuver by themselves across the not only within buildings and also outside of the buildings, the public spaces. So across all public spaces and buildings, the government is now bringing in methodologies to make them accessible to everybody. So this universal accessibility norms are now being implemented across the country in all the projects. So these are some of the things which the government is pushing through and pushing forward, and they are starting with their own buildings. They are setting an example.
Yeah.
So this is where then it then gets the it then gets incorporated in the various layers of other buildings.
Right.
It's about making sustainability, accessibility, all these more of a standardized way of probably designing
Designing.
and building rather than a coerced thing. That's very
Ma'am.
interesting.
Absolutely. So it's a starting slowly and steadily. It will become the norm. It will become a given.
Hmm.
You know.
Private players will also start doing it somewhere
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yes.
So, ma'am, again, like one question is totally related with the our generation thinking about internships and jobs. Like, there is this constant dilemma which I have also faced. My
The
friends
million
have
dollar question: jobs and internships.
yeah.
It boils down to that, right?
Yeah. So with respect to architecture, there is, there are firms which are large scale firms doing very big projects as edifices, and then there are, what I understand is the project design phase is in 2 months or 3 months. After that, when the construction phase starts and an intern or an employee is there, he or she is too much into staircase detailing, shaft detailing, and all those things. We have heard these stories. And then there are these small scale firms which are very boutique kind of firms doing all those interior residential projects and things like that. So it becomes very difficult. And in college, we are taught in every field, right? In our 10 semesters. So it becomes very difficult for a person sitting inside the campus thinking that what to opt for, where to go for internships. So can you give us some tips or some, pointers which we can apply while choosing our firms?
So I would advise that you should check with your seniors, check with people who've already done internship in certain firms, because you may go to a very large firm And while you've said staircase detailing, you may not even get the opportunity to do staircase detailing. You may be just printing drawings for 4 months for them. Okay, so so the thing is that it's not about big firms or small firms. The same situation could arise in both big firms and small firms.
Right.
And bear in mind, big firms are also consisting of smaller design groups. It's not, designing happens as a group activity. So say in Edifice also, we are divided into various design verticals. We are divided into various design groups. So each design group functions as a smaller office,
Right.
right? So it's not like if it is a big firm, you will always go and get lost. You will still work in that small firm format within a big firm also, right? And there may be some great small firms who empower their trainees, who allow them to think through.
Explore.
In Edifice, when certain new projects come, we give the trainees opportunity to design esquisse. We even tell them, okay, come up with a concept. Let's see what you can give. No, it's not
Right.
necessary that we will take forward that concept, but at least you get the opportunity to work on it, right? So, so a lot of big firms give a lot of design opportunities to trainees. So it's not like if you are in a big firm or a small firm. In small firm, you will get great design opportunities, and in big firms, you will not. It's not a straight formula in that manner. So the best way is to figure out how your seniors have
Right.
done work there, what experience have they had, and then you can take a call accordingly. So doing a ref check
Yeah.
will help.
Great,
Because
ma'am.
what happens is that in bigger firms, the possibility, because the number of people are more, the intake of employees are more, you may have a greater opportunity in getting absorbed if you've been able to make your mark over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so which may be a possibility even in smaller firms, that if you've really done well, you will probably get absorbed there as well. So it is a matter of chance and opportunity, and your own uh,
You.
how much and what can you do? How can you impress whoever you're working with?
Yeah. So, ma'am, really, like, it was a great experience talking to you. Thank you. You have given
So
enough.
wonderful talking to you guys also. Yeah, I'm impressed with the way you are asking questions. You're still students, not yet moved out to the industry,
Just
but
about to go
it was great interacting with you.
It was a great learning experience for us as well. The way
now.
you explain the key concepts of how the design process works, I think that is something that we are looking forward to incorporate in our design thinking as well. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for
Thank you,
joining.
thank you, thank you, and look forward to interacting with you more sometime.
Now I have enough food for thought, ma'am.
Yeah.
Enough food for thought. Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. All the best. All the best. Do well, and all the best to your future. I hope you get through to in some good places for internship.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
ma'am.